You are listening to HYPERSPECTRAL.
HYPERSPECTRAL.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Joseph.
Joseph,
Hi.
tell us about who you are.
All right. A little
is
brief
Who is she?
synopsis. I'm a 35-year-old male.
No.
True. I reign from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I live in Woodside, Queens. I'm in school to become a dental hygienist. I also have a intensely passion for flora and fauna.
Yes.
I thought I would start the podcast today with the definition of a word, homeostasis. The tendency toward a relatively stable equilibrium between interdependent elements, especially as maintained by physiological processes. And this definition, it really speaks to me today because mentally I feel like I'm reaching homeostasis, but in so many other areas of life, the word, I find it to be so applicable and something that is crucial, really. Stemming from my passion of flora and fauna, I think plants and insects in the natural world are imperative for our mental health and our physical health. And I don't really think enough scientific literature is being brought about in a way that's accessible to the masses to explain really what's going on in our natural world. And today, it's dedicated to the insects and plants that have foraged and paved a way for us to be here, really. Because I think oftentimes we forget that if nature is not in balance, then we, as a species, are not in balance. And
Because we are natural,
exactly.
just as natural as the rest of the universe.
Exactly. You said it right there.
And
We
it's
are the natural world.
A call to arms to get in tune with that.
For
as
sure.
humans.
A call to arms
'Cause you're in
for
tune.
hugs.
I like to think I'm in tune. Yes, I agree with that. I like to think I'm in tuned. It's hard to not be passionate about something that you stem from, really. You know what I mean?
Interesting. It's your origin.
Yeah, it's all of our origins. Without it, we wouldn't be here. And if it doesn't reach homeostasis, we're not going to be here for much longer. It's imperative. These things are imperative.
When did you get passionate about this?
I mean, I've always been passionate, but not to this kind of like empirical, data-related level. You know what I mean?
When did that start happening?
Honestly, that's hard. When did it start happening? Like, when did I start researching to the level that I do now? I think it was gradual, but really, I think what it was I started getting into houseplants, and it was more so like a therapeutic ritual for myself. It was just good to have them around physically, mentally. They just brought a lot of joy and medicinal properties to my life. And then I started getting into angiosperms, which are flowering plants. And my dad has always been a gardener, so growing up, the landscape was always filled with annuals or biennials or perennials, and I got to play in the garden as a kid. And I know my parents had a huge influence on the way I view the natural world.
Cool.
Yeah, but also the extent of climate change.
For me,
really.
when I noticed it in Joseph, as an onlooker, as an observer,
Well, you've known him longer than I
and
have.
a big fan, when you started with the organic chemistry and that kind of stuff.
Totally.
When you started doing that, that's
Yeah.
when you went deep into the cellular
Let
level.
me figure this out.
The molecular level of what's happening in the universe, and
Totally.
you just went deeper and deeper as time goes by, and I love that.
I
Because
think you're
now
absolutely...
you're here as an informative voice
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's so special. I love it.
It's hyperspectral imaging personified.
Yes.
Hyperspectral imaging of the universe and how the natural world works.
I'm fortunate I have family and friends who allow me to be myself. I think that's the most important thing you guys do is harbor a space where I can be myself
Yippee.
at no fear.
Here at the U Equal Love headquarters, we believe in authentic.
Chosen family.
Yeah.
You know, because the nuclear family is evolving. Or maybe it's always been the same.
We've
but in the
gone
queer
past
community.
the nuclear family. We're back to tribal, if you ask me.
Yes, exactly.
Hunter-gatherer.
Yeah, not saying I'm gonna hunt or gather, but I'll watch.
But it's cool to
The
see
tribe
the
do
term
it.
There you
chosen
go.
family come more into vogue
Yeah.
and get more people talking about it. And maybe, you know, you listeners at home don't know what a chosen family is, but I say get into it.
All right, so stemming from homeostasis and my love of plants, that really brought about my love of insects.
Homeostasis, let me just ask you before we go further, tell me yes or no if it's true, is a state of interdependent things coming to equal each other as a whole?
Correct? Yeah. In the form of physiological processes. Yeah.
Which would mean it would be all these, it would be a lot of interconnected waves.
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 Yeah, absolutely.
Webs.
Absolutely, yeah. Of things that really interdepend on one another.
And what makes it a homeostasis situation is the fact that they come up to equal
Correct, yeah.
each other.
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah, there's a balance.
Okay.
A balance.
A balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything in life, if you think about it, whether it's a
gotta have a
physiological, it's
balance.
there has to be a balance in
The moon's
everything.
in Libra.
Yeah, it is.
That's right.
Speaking of balance.
Yeah. And speaking of balance, let's balance right on into the data because this stuff is so cool. I honestly don't understand how somebody could breeze over this material. And I guess, different things speak to different people. And that's what kind of makes us as a collective on this planet a beautiful organism, really.
Because I'm just looking at the pictures.
Yeah,
Time to
but
plant some data in our soil.
there we
We're ready
go.
to receive.
All right.
Okay, baby.
So, plants first came on the scene when we're talking millions and millions and millions and millions of years ago.
The Holocene.
Before the Holocene. We're in the Holocene now. Before the Holocene. We're talking about the Carboniferous, which was 320
What
million
is the
years ago.
Holocene?
Essentially Homo sapiens.
Human
Yeah.
existence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
10,000 years prior it starts arbitrarily.
Yeah, right.
10,000 years prior to our normal quote-unquote Gregorian calendar.
Correct.
Here
Yeah.
for the Holocene.
When we jump down from the trees.
Okay.
Yeah.
I came from the ocean.
There you go. We all did, really. Bacteria, yeah. I mean, well, okay, so specifically stemming to when plants started coming about, it wasn't until the Carboniferous period, which is around 320 million years ago, where the first insects kind of divulged from worms. I believe
Carboniferous?
in the
Like
Carboniferous period.
carbonara?
No, like carbon,
Carbon.
think about the
Carbon,
soil.
like
Carboniferous.
diamonds.
The soil, essentially, because what happened was
not
there was a great death of all the plants.
Pancetta and prosciutto.
Oh,
Which created
No.
the carbon.
correct. Carbon-rich soil. If you
Oh,
think
wow,
about soil
right.
as a living organism, which it is, why is it that dark, rich, black color? It's because plants sequester carbon in the roots, and the soil then holds it.
Wow.
So those come from the plants. The plants bring the carbon out of the atmosphere, they suck it in the soil, and they lock it.
And it's a full circle moment.
I mean, when you think about...
The plant was getting to that moment of just like needing to do something to restart. And that's what it does.
all the time.
Yes.
All the time. That's what plants do
and
for
we're
us right now.
experiencing it right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have plants in this.
Absolutely.
right
They're
now.
taking in the carbon. They have these things on their leaves, these tiny holes called, essentially they're like sporatosomes. They're little tiny holes that exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. They're the coolest thing. They're so efficient. And tell me another organism that creates its own food. Can you synthesize your own food? No. Plants do. They're a powerhouse.
Doubt it.
They're
I
a
don't even know
powerhouse.
what synthesize means.
It means that in their DNA and their genome, their mitochondria creates their own food by synthesizing it from the sun. Photosynthesis. They create plant sugars.
Do artichokes count?
Artichokes count, baby. Yes.
Hell yeah. Artichokes
We're an
count.
artichoke family.
We are an artichoke
Yeah,
family.
no, I just recently discovered the magic powers and liver rebuilding aspects of artichokes. So, if artichokes come up every now and then, they're also
welcome.
sitting in the room with us.
Yeah. Or we just
We got
ate them.
artichokes on the mind and the gut,
Yes,
if
thankfully.
you will.
Thankfully.
Thanks for sharing. Keep coming back.
So so back in the Carboniferous period, that's when insects first started to come about. We moved to the Permian period, things started divulging into wings, so we have winged insects. Triassic period, this is when the reptilians started to come about. And so we have giant insects like the dragonflies, the huge ones. I mean, back then, during the Triassic, they were gigantic, like the size of
You
Trisha's
know what?
sweater.
They still are in South America, Latin America. They still are.
Yeah, they
Down
are.
by the
Yes,
equator,
they are.
honey.
Yep. Heat and humidity. And then the Jurassic period, which, interestingly enough, was
When
essentially-
roaches became born.
no. Those were the arthropods very early on in the Carboniferous. During the Jurassic, which was 181 around estimate years ago, angiosperms took the scene. Because before it was bryophytes, so you had your liverworts, your hornworts, your mosses, and before that was algae in the sea. That's where plants started their evolutionary history. And then it was on the wet, muddy margins that like lichens and mosses started to grow. Millions of years later, horsetail ferns, and then millions of years later, we have the first flowering plant, which was believed is believed to be a lotus. No. Correction, a water lily.
Water lily.
Just so
Flowering
everyone
plant.
knows, Joseph is off book right now. He's literally just, this is him just spouting all the information he knows. We
From
are
the top of
in
his head.
awe.
Yeah, we're in awe. Joseph, you're incredible.
Yeah.
How you retain? You retain so much information.
Thank you.
And it comes from your heart, I can tell.
It really does. I just love this stuff. And anybody who's had a passion for anything knows exactly. I mean, Rika, it's the same way with you on stage. It's your passion. You love the process of it, the writing, the performing, all of it. It's a full production, and it feels good.
It's photosynthesis.
This is exactly. It's the
In a
same
way,
thing.
right?
Yeah, right.
Take-
right.
Achieving
You take in
homeostasis.
things,
Yeah,
you
man.
take in
It
things
makes
through
me
those
well.
small holes, you absorb, and then you figure it out, and you plant the roots, and then you grow.
It's the energy that goes into achieving
thought of it like that.
homeostasis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what are we
Stasis.
doing? Stasis is a state,
Mm-hmm.
pluralized.
Right.
Okay, so
I'd say it's a calm, rational
Consideration.
consideration of a state,
For sure.
right? And
right,
considerate state.
right. That's the state we like.
Yes.
But when you're
Stasis.
if you are using energy, you should be but it's more beneficial, I think.
It's more efficient to
Efficient to use your energy to achieve homeostasis.
which echoes nature. If you think
Which
about
does-
nature does that all the
And
time.
we should
it's in a
echo
constant.
nature because we are natural.
There you go. You said it right there. Brilliant. That is the theme and like where I'm trying to go with discussing this, because take angiosperms. What happens when angiosperms started evolving, right? There needs to be something that is
I know
mutually
what they
beneficial
did.
to tie.
When angiosperms started, honey, eggs started getting fertilized.
Yeah, man.
I know.
Yeah.
I know what happened.
Pollination.
I know what happened.
What's interesting is it's a mutually beneficial relationship, right? So these things have co-evolved on this earth for millions of years. And with time and the process of doing that, these beautiful relationships form that are integral to our ecosystems. Now, I mean, think about it. They've had millions of years to evolve where we haven't even been there. These relationships are complex. They are in detail, and you have certain insects that only fit a certain kingdom or phylum or classification or genus or particular species of plant. So it's a mutually
Same
beneficial
with
thing.
birds.
Same with birds. It all echoes each other. And what's scary is that we've gotten to a place now where homeostasis is not being achieved. It's actually off kilter immensely. And we're undergoing what scientists are deeming an insect apocalypse. And I don't think people understand really how imperative insects are to our lives. They're integral. If we want to eat, if we want to stay here on this planet, essentially
Bees,
healthy.
for example.
Bees are a wonderful example. You have the European honeybee, right? It was brought over here as an invasive species, but now there has been tests done that these honeybees are very aggressive to our native bees, because before European bees were brought over, we had native bees. And the native bees are what's called solitary bees. They pollinate singularly. They don't live in a hive or a collective. They bury themselves within the holes or within woody stems or within tree trunks.
Cool.
And they hibernate in there, and they have babies in there. And all of our natural pollinators, before European bees were brought over, were natural, solitary bees. And now, invasive species is another thing. These bees are overtaking and killing our own native bees. And that's where Doug Tallamy's work, Mount Cuba Center, and Cornell University come in as like three of my biggest collections of information. Their scientific data is imperative to what's going on right now. They're doing the work right now to see what plants and what insects are drastically dropping. And they're trying to, how do I say it? They're trying to bolster higher numbers of insect and plant diversity. And without their work, we wouldn't know where to go. So
Kudos to
yeah,
them.
kudos to them. I have to echo their names. Doug Tallamy, Mount Cuba Center, and Cornell University in particular, their horticultural unit. They're just doing some of the best scientific data out there for us gardeners, because the future now is in the gardener's hands. Thank you guys so much for giving me the platform to speak today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, we love you.
Well, we love you, honey. Okay,
I love you
party
guys too.
on.
Party on, man.